Why should the government help poor people? Why should they spend tax dollars on people who don't have that much money and need help buying food or health insurance? I'm asking this question in honor of the vote this morning, Thursday, May 22nd, that Republicans in the House put forward that will cut $1 trillion dollars from Medicaid and food stamps over the next 10 years. And this is going to be one of those videos where I explain to you why I think the way you think about some things is completely wrong. But why does the government help poor people? Why do we have federal programs like Medicaid and food stamps? More than likely, whether you are in the affirmative or in the negative, you're going to answer this question based on some version of sympathy and empathy. You feel bad for people who don't have health insurance or can't afford food or don't have that much money. You think that they shouldn't exist in a country that's so wealthy. You think if we have these resources, we should bring up the bottom. Or you're unsympathetic. Those people need to help themselves. It's not my responsibility. Same thing with empathy. You're empathetic to the idea that maybe one day you could end up needing food stamps or Medicaid, that you want these programs in place should anything drastic or terrible happen to you. You lose your job, you get divorced, something happens to your health, and you need Medicaid and food stamps, right? Or you're unempathetic. I would never need them, and therefore we don't need the programs. All of those answers make the justification for the program about the person and how you feel about them. Of like, should this kid get food stamps? Well, I don't know. Was his mom married when he was born? Right? Should this woman get Medicaid? Like, oh, I don't know. How hard does she work? Like, how many hours? Like, what's her schedule? When was the last time she put in 35 hours? You're assessing their character. You're assessing their values, their work ethic, their drug history, their marital history, and deciding whether or not to have a program. And that is the absolute wrong way to think about it. Because these programs in our economy function as vital economic investments. And the reason from the federal government's perspective as to why we have these programs is because our economy would be much worse without them. You're not helping poor people when we spend Medicaid money on them. You're buying better economic outcomes that benefits all of us, not just the people on the program. So, for example, food stamps has a very obvious and clear effect of helping kids do better in school because hungry kids don't do that well on tests and they don't do that well in class. So if you give a family that can't afford food stamps, those kids will do better in school. And this is keep in mind we've had food stamps for a really long time now. All of these effects have been demonstrated in numerous settings through numerous papers. We know that giving kids food helps them do better on tests. So yeah, from your framing of sympathy and empathy, it's about whether or not you feel sorry enough for the kid that they shouldn't go hungry. But from the economist's perspective, and what is probably the government's perspective, I want to buy higher test scores from that kid. And if I can buy higher test scores, that means that I've bought a higher likelihood of post secondary education, and I've bought a higher likelihood of labor force participation in the future, and I've bought a higher likelihood of higher earnings. And I've bought those outcomes, and I've done it through food stamps. It doesn't matter what I think of the kid, or if the kid's cute, or asked nicely, or was respectful, or didn't make me judge him and his parents in public for how he behaved. Right? Like he is a vehicle for an investment, and that return is more workers with more earnings. Food stamps also helps kids be healthier when they become adults. Same thing. Hunger is unhealthy. So if I can have healthier kids, that means I spend less on them in the future, and that they're more likely to work and earn more. Medicaid makes people healthier and saves lives. To absolute economic returns, healthier people also more likely to work, also cost the healthcare system less. And if a 35-year-old dies young, that's 30 years of work I didn't get out of them from the economy's perspective. So I'm not here because healthcare is a right or that there's a dignity to existence that requires healthcare. No, that's it. I mean, I'm buying healthier people, and healthier people are better for the economy, and that's an outcome I get a return on. Not just for food stamps and Medicaid, but for all kinds of programs that the United States doesn't have. You can basically look at it as an investment return. How much does the program cost versus how much do I get back from it and better economic outcomes? I mean, these results are outstanding in terms of just how much we get back from making sure we don't leave people behind. The returns to something like the child tax credit, the universal child allowance where every kid has a minimum level of income in the United States. The returns there are on a magnitude of 10 to 1. because kids who are poor are going to do worse in school. They're going to commit more crime as teenagers, which makes them less likely to work and earn in the future. And some of the biggest savings from the child tax credit, were we to have it permanently, is that you'd essentially be buying lower teenage crime, which is a cold way to think about it, but has a massive return to our economy. And it doesn't make the conversation about what do you think of poor kids, but what do we benefit from not having poor kids? Same thing with paid family leave. Massive economic return because it makes infants, their moms, healthier, and it makes their moms more likely to work in the future. Universal child care would result in more workers, and workers who work more hours and earn more money. Even one year of universal pre-K is going to get you somewhere between 6% and 7% higher earnings for the next 6 years, because you can participate in the labor force more. So this cold-blooded economist way of thinking about it can sound really harsh, but the truth is that there are certain economic outcomes that cost us money, so we can spend to prevent them from happening, and instead invest in a better economic outcome, a better set of outcomes. Some of these investments we make, some of these investments we don't make, but it doesn't change the nature of investment and return. I think about it this way, and I think it's helpful because I don't like getting into character fights. I don't like trying to prove to someone who doesn't like poor people that actually it's okay to help them. I think just making it in terms of investment return really comes down to, do you think that everyone in the economy is meeting their full economic potential? And if you had a way to get them there, wouldn't you want to? Like if I told you that we could have like 5% higher output on net because there are a lot of people who aren't working as much as they could, you would say like, yeah, well, let's have people work. And then I said, okay, great. We need food stamps and Medicaid and universal school meals and childcare, right? Then it becomes like, well, those people aren't good enough. People agree with economic investments and economic returns. They just don't like the people. Uh, and so I just try to make it not about the people and more about the returns that they want to see. And this makes it clear just what's at stake with something like $1 trillion in cuts to Medicaid and food stamps, because you're not just losing the $1 trillion, you're losing all of the better economic outcomes that those trillions of dollars were going to buy. You've lost all of it. You've lost lives, you've lost health, you've lost test scores and workers and earnings, and you've lost everything that investment supported because you wanted to punish the people.